soy sauce, tamari, there's a lot of fermented stuff that we use in the kitchen these days, which is all the fashion. The other day I went to a restaurant with my mom and they had like things that I don't even know the name of anymore. So very fashionable at the moment, but it's not a novelty. In fact, even at the times of the ancient Romans, there was a very, very traditional ingredient which was added to so many dishes, which consisted in a fermentation. Maybe it's not what you imagine though, because in this particular case, we're talking about fermented fish intestines. Many people think that this is very much a Roman thing. However, it was something that was eaten all over the Mediterranean, in the Middle East, by the Greeks, by the Phoenicians. So it was very much a common ingredient to all of the Mediterranean. It was very famous and there were different varieties of it. We have it, I'm not going to be making garum, by the way, in case you were disappointed. I'm just cutting up some cabbage, okay? So, first of all, how do you make garum? Garum was made by using not only the intestines, or in certain cases just the intestines, in certain cases not. So you would take the fish, especially sardines, and you would, if they were bigger kinds of fish, you would cut them up. If they were just the sardines, you would leave them all whole. But the most important thing was that you wouldn't take out the intestines, because I think it was the intestines which really made the magic happen. Okay, so you would put everything inside a kind of like a terracotta vase, and you would do layers of the fish and then a lot of salt, okay? Because a lot of people say, oh, it was rotten fish. It was not rotten, okay? It was fermented, and it was very important that it did not rot. So layer upon layer of fish, salt, a lot of salt, fish, salt, fish, salt. The amount of salt that was used made this a very, very expensive. Luckily, you didn't use a lot of it. You used a very little amount of it. It was very, very rich and strong in taste and odor, okay? But you really use very little of it in recipes. A little bit like vegetable stock, okay? So you would use very little of it, but it appeared in a lot of Roman recipes and recipes, as we said, from all over the Mediterranean. Certain areas made it differently from other areas. So for example, in Spain, they made a variety which was with mackerel, and it used just the blood and the intestines. And so this was the most expensive variety of garum. In other parts, they made cheaper versions. Now, sorry, going back to how you made it, you would make it ferment inside these containers for 7 days in the sun, and then you'd take it out of the sun and you'd let it ferment even more for another 2 weeks, and you'd keep mixing it, and then you would filter it with a very, very fine grain filter so that only the liquid would come out, and that would be the garum, okay? Now, then you could add this to other ingredients like oil, like vinegar, like wine, and you'd end up with different varieties of garum. Often this would be used alongside something else called liquamen, which sounds kind of gross, but this was basically like a fish sauce. Now, sometimes like a very, very high-end, very expensive liquamen could be almost at the same level of a basic garum. So they could be, in certain cases, be interchangeable. And there would be entire factories dedicated to the making of this garum. Pompeii made a lot of garum, and I visited in Morocco the remains of the Roman ruins of a place which was entirely dedicated to the production of garum, called Lixus. We went there, Leo and I, my partner, we went there when my first child was like 9 months old, and we visited this ex-factory of ex-ancient Roman factory of garum, and this was a very important source of for the economy of these places which produced this. Obviously, they were always along the coast because they needed to get the fish in. And it's in places like this, like Lixus, where the containers where the garum was produced were analyzed to get the DNA out. And apparently this is very, very difficult because the fermentation really damages the DNA. So the studies that have been made were very, very difficult to do. But through these studies, we were able to understand so much about the gastronomy of this period. Now, this also makes you maybe understand something that not everyone always realizes, is that the Roman Empire extended very far, okay? So these are Roman ruins that I visited in Morocco, and it's not even the only Roman ruins that I visited in Morocco. We visited some other Roman ruins further north, which were absolutely gorgeous with beautiful mosaics. One of the most beautiful mosaics that we have of the Roman times, which I'm dying to go and see, is actually in Tunisia. So if you are obsessed with the Roman Empire, which apparently I've heard a lot of men are these days, it's not only by visiting Italy that you will be able to get a kick out of visiting some beautiful Roman ruins. Now, Giacomo made a very important question to me. Who ate this stuff? Rich people or poor people or both? Now, it was very expensive. It is said that like a very expensive perfume cost similar to a basic garum, okay? So the most expensive stuff that was called, for example, one of the most expensive things was called aimation, and it was made with just the intestines and the blood of tuna fish. So this would have been accessible only to very rich people. But when you got the juice out and you were left with the substance, that could be used again to create a second extraction of sorts, and that would be a lot cheaper. Okay, and that was called alec, the kind of the leftovers, all right? And the alec itself could be then fed to slaves, apparently. Now, there was also like a cheating way of producing this garum, which would have been a lot cheaper. And this consisted in taking water and salt, and to understand whether there was enough salt in the water, you would like literally put an egg in it, and if it didn't go down to the bottom, then that was a way of telling that there was enough salt. So you take salt and water and then the fish, and then you'd boil it up. So rather than doing the fermentation, you'd boil it, and this would be a lot faster, and you would end up with a cheaper version of garum, which was a little bit more accessible to people. Oh, sorry, Giacomo says I need to cut. I'm cooking lunch now, so you can tell that he's in a rush to eat now. So garum was something that, as I said, you would add to many recipes, and it was something like a little bit like soy sauce, that you kind of use it to flavor a variety of things. And we find it all over the Mediterranean. In fact, the word garum itself probably derives from a Greek word which was used for the particular fish that the Greeks used to make this fermented fish sauce. You find fermented fish sauce still to this day in the Middle East, in Korean cuisine. If any of you know more about this, I would be very curious, in fact. So comment below if you know about any recipes or any ingredients that we use today that are similar to this. Now, there are actually a lot of other videos that have been made on YouTube about this garum. It's something which people love to talk about. Usually people are like, well, this must have been gross. This must have smelled so bad. Oh my God, this garum must have been absolutely disgusting. To be honest, I mean, I love fermented foods, and I love very rich tastes, especially when you use them to cook in like recipes where then they get kind of like watered down. For example, I love using Marmite. Marmite is a traditional British thing that a lot of people think is gross. My partner thinks that Marmite is gross, but then I secretly put it in his food and he doesn't know. So I think that this garum actually would have been very, very interesting and flavorful, and I would love to try to eat something with it in. I do not, however, have the guts, haha, pun unintended. I do not have the guts to try to make it myself. So I would love to buy something similar and try to use it in my cooking, as long as my family doesn't know, because otherwise there's no way they'll eat it. So if you have more information about this, I would be interested to know more. Put it in the comments below. Remember to like and remember to follow us to learn more about the weird stuff that we can learn from the past. So this is The Curious Cat. I'm Lizzie, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.